Well, this is the Pan America. As you can see, this is the 1250 liquid-cooled engine, the new adventure bike from Harley Davidson. What? But it's really good. Actually, this is the special version. It's got a few more little bits and pieces on it. It's got the factory selected spoke wheels with tubeless tyres on it. Marvellous. These tyres are Scorcher Adventure, so if you know anything about adventure bikes at all, these kind of tyres, they're kind of a halfway in between tyre really. They're a road tyre, but they're actually quite capable off-road, especially when it's dry. So don't rush out if you're going to get one of these to go for the knobbly tyres like Anarchy Wild, which will give you that extra security for when it's really wet, let's say off-road, or if you want to go uphill off-road. But most of the time, 90% of the time or 85% of the time, these are perfectly fine for any kind of terrain. I came into this thinking I wouldn't like it, but actually I really do. Okay, let's check the sound, because it's very un-Harley sound-like. Really, just flick of a button here. And it revs really freely. So yeah, different type of engine completely, still V-twin, but different type, totally liquid cooled of course, higher revving, faster bike. This goes like stink. In sport mode, it goes like stink. The clutch is really light, really nice, as it should be for an adventure bike, and the gear changing is really sweet and smooth as well. Everything that you kind of don't expect from a Harley Davidson, you're actually getting it here. They've done a good job. As you can imagine, they've got different rider modes. You've got rain, which really does cut the power down. It's top power is 150 horsepower, which you really do feel in sport mode. Sport mode is really nice. Road mode is just a pleasant, it's linear acceleration, it's linear power. Rain mode, yeah, it definitely cuts it down. Then you've got the two off-road modes, the off-road and the off-road plus, let's say. And there's different power settings for that. You've got other customizable rider modes as well, where you can turn off all the traction control and ABS if you need to. Okay, how does it ride? Well, I've got to say, it rides very well. This on the special that you got that adaptive rider height, which is a nice gimmick, if you want to call it that, but it's actually really good. I would actually like to have seen that just on all their bikes, well, the other variants as it were, the cheaper variants. The cheapest variant is about £14,000 I think it is, and the special is about 15,500 to 15,600. Depending on the paint color, I think you can go up to 50,700. You know, it's comparable on price, but I think if you can introduce new technology, then just make it a standard feature. It is a really nice height, and for shorter riders, or I should say people with shorter legs, you're definitely going to find it of benefit. Okay, suspension. Suspension is actually really nice. It's got this kind of active suspension, and it's weird because you're not really sure if it's working or not. I'll show you. You've got this flashing suspension icon there, which basically tells you that it's working, but then it just suddenly stops flashing, so you don't know if it's working. So I changed it into different modes. I went off-road, on-road, and then all of a sudden it kicked back into life. So I'm not sure if that's a fault or it's just that's the way it's supposed to work. Regardless, actually, it rides really nicely, both on-road and off-road. The suspension is a lot softer off-road. On-road, it tightens up a little bit. You can feel yourself just being bumped up on the road. I've got to say, when you start riding the bike, you do tend to feel yourself with this adaptive rider height lift yourself up. Part of that is that system, but also part of that is this active suspension, which kind of chocks you up as you go along. It's actually really nice. But serious off-road, no, it's still really heavy. And if you drop that and you're by yourself, you're going to struggle picking it up. Now, you might have seen these videos where people are picking them up, no problem. That's fine if you're on level ground like this. But if you fall off-road and you're in a bit of a dip, you're on high ground and the bike's on low ground or vice versa, you're going to struggle. So what are the frailties on this bike? Well, obvious things is if you are going to take it off-road and you do drop it, well, these handguards are just plastic. They'll break really easily. I'd say this is really nice because the windshield, it's a manual operation, so less can go wrong with it, but it is quite flimsy in the higher settings, I would say, so there's a lot of vibration. Okay, of course, because it is an adventure bike, there's going to be rocks and pebbles and mud and everything that's going to be flicked up onto the bike. So you can buy a headlight grille as well. You can also buy a grille that would go over the radiator. I think it's just a really poor design to have it there in the first place. The battery voltage regulator is right at the front here. Again, I think it's really poor design for that. However, there is another guard that you can put on here. It's aluminium and it covers that whole thing, and it goes all the way back and protects the exhaust as well, the catalytic converter. But we're talking extras, so it's always extra. You're paying extras for these things that you would have hoped, especially on the special, that they would put on standard. So here's where I'm at with it. Really capable bike. It feels really light when you're riding it. It's quite a narrow profile, so it beats the BMW on that for sure. Lots of power. It's brilliant, you know, on the sport mode, on the road. It goes into the bend and it sticks there. Really nice. Really surprising from Harley Davidson, I've got to say. Really surprising. Overall, for an adventure bike, but I think they've missed the mark. The market is coming down for reducing their bikes. If you're looking for a better off-road adventure bike, go for the Africa Twin, go for the KTM, go for the BMW because it's more advanced. The tech on here is really nice, and the screen display is really nice as well. It's in line with what Moto Guzzi have done, what Triumph have now done, and BMW have done with their sort of adventure bike. But it still seems to be a little bit lacking in some regards. I suppose you've got to look at the design of it. Does it look nice? From the side, I think it looks all right. I think from the front, it looks a bit, not too sure about that at all. I think if they'd made the headlight nacelle a little bit more curved inwards or angled inwards, it might have made it a little bit more appealing. But look, it's Marmite. Some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. It's got the engine guards on there. The seat is really comfortable. As I say, you can change the seat height internally as well. There's I think 3 different settings, but also you've got that adaptive rider height, which is included on the special model as well. Who is going to buy this bike? Well, adventure bike riders, possibly wanting something different. Harley Davidson riders who want a different kind of ride, let's say. If you're in the United States, you're probably going to be more after this than another type of adventure bike because you've got the dealership network. They're all over the place. So in terms of support, you'll probably have a lot better time with this than, let's say, a BMW or a Honda or a Triumph, for example, or a KTM. Have there already been problems with it? Well, I've already heard that they've had to address some issues with the BCM. They've already had some engine oil leaks apparently as well. This is a first year model, so let's not forget there will be lots of problems with it. There will be lots of things that owners will find over the next year or so. That's to be expected. That's got nothing against the bike or Harley Davidson. That's to be expected. But it rides right, it feels light and nimble. Gear changing, engine performance, it's all there, everything that you want in an adventure bike, it's there. But I come back to who's going to want it. Who is going to want to have this over a Triumph, let's say, or a KTM or Africa Twin or whatever? Well, it is competitive on price and it does everything that you'll need it to do. So I think it's going to attract a lot of people if you can get over the looks. But most people are not going to take these off-road or serious off-road, that's for sure. They might play a little bit, but essentially it's going to be a road bike. You're going to use it for, let's say, longer distance riding tours with that upright riding position, which is really comfortable. And maybe you're going to put your boxes on there, your aluminium boxes on there, so that's going to bulk it out, make it heavier. Let's bear this in mind. If you take this off-road with yourself and with a pillion and also with the boxes full of luggage and full of equipment, let's say, it's going to be an extremely heavy bike. And also, if you drop it with all that weight, you might hurt yourself. But also to pick everything back up afterwards, that's going to be a real struggle if you're by yourself or even with two people. As I say, if you've got uneven ground, if the bike is resting high and your feet are lower, in a ditch or something, it's really difficult to pick up a bike, and vice versa. If the bike is in a dip and you're on higher ground, you can't get down to lift up the bike properly. It happens all the time. The point is, would you buy this as a tourer, as an all-purpose tourer, over another tourer, another Harley Davidson? Some people will, no doubt. Some people want the change. But I think you still buy a Harley Davidson for that feeling, that sound, that rumble. Yes, with all its issues, with all the problems, with all the the lacking in technology sometimes that people argue about, you kind of still buy it for that. This is a complete departure for Harley Davidson, so it may have lots of success earlier on, but will it have success in the long term? I'm not 100% sure. Is it capable? Yes. Does it do what it says on the tin? Yes. Have they produced a really good bike? Yes. Have they hit the market at the wrong time? I believe so. Because the market is already dictating that people want smaller bikes. Now, Triumph have definitely noticed this. They got the big adventure bike, the 1200, then they released the Tiger 900, which is their biggest seller now. They're coming down. KTM have found it as well, that people are coming down into the 700s, 800 mark for a better all-round bike, an all-round feeling. And maybe that's what Harley Davidson needed to do as well. They need to offer something like this, but they also needed to offer a bike with a smaller capacity as well, a smaller physical bike as well. Thing is, with any new bike, they're always going to try and tell you that all this is brand new technology and everything is, modern tech, and they're the first ones to design it. In fact, virtually everything on this bike has already been done before, apart from that adaptive ride height, which is a nice gimmick, but everything else has already been done before. And dare I say it, some have done it better and some have done it worse. So it kind of hits the middle spot. You can get luggage on the back, hard cases or soft cases as well. You can get a plate on the back here to strap luggage to, a top box to as well. And also it's a moving box. It moves on a kind of plate, movable plate, so it absorbs vibrations, and when you're going along the road really fast, it allows it to move so the bike is not blown off course so easily. That's old technology. That's been on other bikes for quite a few years now. So one word of warning with that, your top box will rattle quite a lot given time. There is a lot of vibration on it. You do hear it as you're riding along, especially if you start going off-road with it as well. So overall, what do I think of it? It's top. It's a really good bike. Is it for me? I thought it was. This is why I've test rode it. This is why they called me in to test ride it. I thought it would be some kind of big, longer tourer, big adventure bike. And if I was going with it, I would definitely really consider it. But do you know what? I prefer a tourer to be a tourer, and for an off-road bike to be a proper off-road bike. All the places that you could take on here, I'm talking about the average rider here, right? Virtually every place that you could go on this, you could go on a normal bike as well, because hard compacted trails, that's where it's at. If you're going on anything slippery or rutted or whatever, you're going to fall off this really easy. It's going to be really hard to pick up, and you're going to start breaking things really easy. So most people won't do that. So you've got to ask yourself, why would you go on it in the first place? I don't know. It's a topical discussion, let's say. Anyway, I must get back on the road, but I've had a great time with this bike. It's been real fun. I think if you're in the mood for a Harley Davidson, but a complete departure from what Harley Davidson has always brought you, I think this is a cracking bike. Is it for me? No, I think, because if I want something for off-road, I'm going to go for something a lot lighter. But if I want a tourer, I'd go for a tourer. If I want an adventure bike, I think I'd go something with a bit more capability. But I think I'd come down to a lower CC possibly, and also a slightly smaller bike. Because if you can do off-road riding on an adventure bike, it becomes really hard work, and you'll find that out if you do it. But this sort of stuff, easy, lovely, eats it up. On the road, easy, beautiful bike to ride. So overall, 10 out of 10 I've got to give it, but not for me, which seems a bit odd really, doesn't it? But there we go. Anyway, hope you found that useful. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, like and share. Check out the website RevelatorAlf.com, and I'll catch you again. Ta-da.